Welcome to the $1 Million Multi-Op Podcast. Here, you're going to find education, entertainment, and a little inspiration on how to get to the next level. Are you a DJ company owner that's looking for the secret sauce? Congrats, you found it.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the $1 Million Multi-Op Podcast. I'm your host, David Osborne with BlueprintLearn.com. And on today's episode, we have my friend Jason Klock. Welcome, Jason.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having
me. Jason is a hustler, man. He is in Harrisburg. Well, it's near Hershey, Pennsylvania. And market-wise, it's not too terribly different from the rural areas where I live in Athens, Georgia. We have a lot in common, and I think that's going to be fun to explore on this podcast. But just a hustler and just a really awesome dude. So I'm really excited to have you on, man.
Thank you for having me, brother. It's been a long time in the making and scheduling, so glad to be here.
We have like equally busy schedules and kids, and the schedules. The only part that aligns in our schedule, which is funny, and which was the original intent of the podcast in the first place, was we were going to do like a 5 a.m. podcast, like record it at 5 a.m. because we both get up at 5, right?
Yes. Yeah. Or 4:30 or 4:15.
Yeah. You get up at 4:30?
Well, it depends. If I got to get to the gym at 5, I need to have a banana in my stomach and a little bit of coffee. And yeah, but then we realized that if we recorded it at 5, we didn't get our 5 a.m. routine. So yeah, we were counteracting what we were trying to accomplish. So here we are at 10 a.m.
And I can only imagine, I imagined me clicking record, or I guess Ian clicking record on the pod. Well, I think, you know what? I think I remember floating that one by Ian and being like, what do you think about that? And he's like, I think you're on your own on that one.
I'm not waking up.
Yeah. And I just imagine hitting record with a cup of coffee in hand, and you don't get the lively David Osborne until 15 minutes into the podcast. So, we're recording at 10 a.m., which is a little bit more palatable for this, but I couldn't agree more. So let's kind of start there. Talk about, what is your 5 a.m. routine?
So I wake up on any given day somewhere between 4:30 and 5. I commit to a personal trainer who's friends of mine for several years now. And although I know how to work my way around the gym, that scheduling commitment and fiduciary exchange of energy pushes me to make sure I'm in the doors by 5 a.m. to work out. Even if it's just a couple days a week. It's been averaging about 3 days a week for me right now in my current chapter and season of life. And that commitment. So, that's one recommendation, is to start there. If you don't know how to work your way around the gym, or you feel like you're not capitalizing on your return of the 45 minutes or an hour, just get a trainer, because it's an appointment in the calendar, and you're paying money for it. And if we're paying money for it, we want to redeem whatever that is. So that helps. And the other couple of days of the week, I might start a little later. I might reverse the schedule and sit down at the desk and do some work, unload what's on the mind, and then go to the gym. Also depends if it's a week that I have the kids or not. So typical routine on average is some form of workout in the first couple hours of being awake, whether that's the hour first or the hour that's after. And I do some spiritual work, and that would be either journaling or just some self-reflecting, some form of journal. There's a couple different exercises that I use, but journal is the word that I'll use for this podcast to just plant that into anyone. And I journal about anything, and only for a few minutes, just to kind of really get that mind right and really understand how I'm feeling for the day, how I want to go into the day, who I want to be today. And then from there, I'll get a little bit of breakfast. I'll get kids breakfast if they're with me. Make sure that they get off to school all happy and well, cleaned up and ready to learn and be with their friends and that type of stuff. And then at that point, if it's an office day for me, which I come to the office 1 or 2 days a week, always on Mondays. And other than that, then I'll just start my appointments, start my tasks, and I'm super calendar oriented. I block schedule like a madman. I color code my calendar like a psychopath. Like I am so crazy. I put drive time in. I put time when I eat, like when I need to shower and get ready to leave the house or go somewhere, things like that. So, but that gives me the opportunity to live the life of freedom that I want to have. And that's to still find time for everything I want to do. And that's important to me. Be there for my kids, their sports, their activities, or just time with them. Manage my DJ schedule, be who I need to be at work. and in my personal life, with friends and all that stuff too.
This podcast could easily just be a podcast about calendar management because I feel like every time anyone ever sees my calendar, usually the reaction is, Jesus, David, like, what are you doing? Like, why is there so
I
much
get
stuff
that
in your calendar?
reaction too. Yeah.
But a lot of it, a lot of it's work, but a lot of it's not. A lot of it's, and it's color coded. I share a calendar with my wife. That's family stuff. Everything that's purple is stuff that interacts with Calendly and all the scheduling and time off. And then there's other things in there. I'm like my own executive assistant where it comes to, I plan my day and I do my next day. But I feel like calendar management, and then what you kind of said is like that accountability you have with your trainer, that accountability to yourself, that calendar really is that thing outside of you that helps you actually get stuff done.
Oh yeah. And it's just a nice following. It turns off having to think about what I'm doing next.
Yeah.
And allows me to think about how I'm doing it. The
I think
other
the
pieces.
last.
What's
Go ahead.
that?
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention too, in the morning routine, I completely forgot. I try and jump in the hot tub or cold plunge too for a few minutes to help kind of just settle that mind before I go into that craziness or chaoticness of the calendar.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that on your Instagram. You're getting in that cold water. I have a pool in my backyard. We just got a house this year that has a pool, and I think we're going to keep it open this winter. Is it good enough just to jump in the middle of the winter? Does it work, or how cold?
I mean, I would check your chlorine and your chemical balance, but providing that you're jumping into something clean in the off season, it's going to work for you. But if you come out looking like a piece of algae, that's not based off of my recommendation.
We'll keep it clean. We'll keep it clean. I feel like the same thing that you said about like that accountability with a personal trainer. I couldn't agree more. I find the days that I go to an Orange Theory class that I'm paying for and it's at start time at 8:15, I go and I do it. The days that I go on a hike are the days that I end up filling it with other things because it's, it's hard to, I'm like, yeah, I could move that. I'll just do that later. Or it's hard to prioritize. So having that rock solid morning routine is really awesome. And, the whole concept. So, we were talking before we recorded that I've known you a long time and I've known you as a successful business owner the entire time. But what I got to watch over the past few years is your commitment to your own health and kind of reclaiming that health, both mental, physical, spiritual, all of it. And I just think that your health, your Jason's health, my David's health is such a direct reflection of everything else that you do and everything of business, relationships. So like, I would love to kind of hear your take on just how your business has morphed or transformed when you have taken different steps in your health journey.
Yeah, I love this topic. And I feel strongly that I have a lot to share, whether we cover it in this podcast or someone reaches out to me afterwards, to know that, my hand is raised to help lead or show any tools or be a bridge to any access points that someone might need or feel like they might need. Because when I look back at the last 4 years of my life, if it's out there, I probably tried it. I had a lot of free time during the COVID days, and that also drove me nuts. I also went through some significant life changes as just far as like who my identity was, becoming a single father of 3 children, and what all of us have in common if we were in this industry 4 years and 6 months ago. All those changes of what life looked like temporarily or forever and everything like that. So for me, I just, I was taking care of myself, but I wasn't taking care of myself. And it was like, just because I was checking the box didn't mean that I had mined the access points or the depth of truly understanding what wellness meant for me and what health meant for me. But there's a lot of tools out there that really help you realign your thoughts. We can go into a whole podcast and the science behind that, but kind of giving the hybrid version so we don't spend all our weight here in just a couple of questions. But I woke up one day and I just wanted to be the best version of myself, and I wanted to make that commitment. And one thing that's been a theme of my life over the last year directly, but a little longer without even knowing it, is what you said. And I can't believe that you said it, because I was like, I would have said it. It's like the number one thing that's written on my whiteboard in my home office right now. And it's every relationship is a reflection of the relationship with yourself, who you are, where you are, what you are, where you want to go, what you want to be, whether it be for the moment, the day, the hour, the year, the rest of your life. Everything will be a reflection. And when you surrender that mindset and truly understand what that means, it changes everything around you. You know, it's for the first time in several years where I truly have a culture where we can all go to a concert on a Wednesday night. And, you know, no one bailed on a task or missed something. They're still checking inquiries, but working and playing. And, you know, we might go out. I mean, this is rare. It's not like this is every week, but that opportunity to lean in and be able to be friends, and like this, I'm actually experiencing it probably truly for the first time in my career. And now that that's all aligned, again, being a reflection of who I am when I show up, how I talk, how clear I am with our goals, how clear I am with my expectations, that advocating for what my needs are. Man, if I'm babbling, I hope people are writing notes and getting something from this, but this is just all showing up for me with this one question. The reflection thing is big. And with the company, you know, I just wanted to harp on that for a second, or focus on that for a second, is, you know, my revenue's not significantly changed. It's just kind of moved a little bit. And how it looks, how it feels, the type of work that we do. You know, wedding count went down a little bit, but average contract went up a little bit. Corporate work is in the mix, but small karaoke and trivia jobs are not. So the event count's the same. But, you know, there's different things like that just kind of move and sway with the seasons and maturity of the organization.
I had this conversation offline about keeping, like, hearing things on a podcast, and then it was Glenn Mackay. He said the good shit sticks, right?
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about. This stuff that Jason's saying, because I think when you're listening, it kind of depends on where you are in your life. If you're in the phase of life that Jason's in, that I'm in, then you're hearing these messages and you're like, I'm maybe right there and I need to hear it. Or that was me 5 years ago. Or some of the listeners who, you know, maybe you're 24 and you're trying to build a multi-op. This isn't even on your radar yet, you know, because you're just in that hustle mode and you haven't got to the place where I had a friend some years ago who said, like, you know, a man who's 18 and a man who's 65, both are called men, but they're both not the same thing. There is a period where you had to get broken and then move past that actually transforms you to be, you know, the real version of the man that you become. And the same applies for women, of course, as well. But it requires like that inner journey. You know, it requires that introspection, that reflection, that surrender. That word that you said, surrender, was like such a huge one, because, you know, you mentioned COVID. It was like you lost all control, like you said. And that surrender, I used to be the kind of DJ that I thought I was supposed to be. Not that I actually am. You know, I used to be the kind of DJ that I thought I was supposed to be cool, and I wasn't supposed to get on the mic very much, and I wasn't supposed to dance around, because I was like, I'm supposed to be a cool DJ like I see on social media. And then COVID, I was performing in my living room on Facebook Lives and hamming it up. And I was like, this is a blast. I surrendered to the opportunity to actually be my true self. And then everything exploded from there. You talked about like the similar mindset with your team. Like, that's core values. That's like having the right aligned core values with your team. That's huge. And like, kudos to you for, I don't want to use the word capitalizing. I just can't think of a better one off the top of my head, but capitalizing off of the opportunity of your self-growth and then like parlay that into your business growth.
Parlay is a word that I never heard until 2023. It just all of a sudden showed up. The one thing that really stuck, out in everything you just said that I feel compelled to spend a few minutes on is like that conversion to kind of a boy to a man, or like when you get broken and then you transition, and you have different phases where that'll happen in business and personal life and relationships. And sometimes that can happen at 17, 27, 58, like whenever that breakdown happens, you know, that true big breakdown. But yeah, you just have to surrender to that and move forward and really understand and search for, and it'll force you to do so, what it is that you're looking to learn from that situation. And with that really changed my communication in all of those categories. For me, the universe was like, all right, you have about a year and a half to 2 years off. So we're just going to go every area in your life at once. Boom. And I was like, oh man, enjoy the ride, which is not the first thing I said out loud. But now I look back and I'm like, man, that was, I love this ride more than anything because of who it's turned me into. But learning how to communicate and just be so clear and concise, you look at other successful businesses, successful organizations, successful people, and it always just revolves around that like clear communication. I might not have been clear as to like who I was and what you said, like the DJ that you thought you had to be or who you had to be. I had this image of like who I thought I had to be every day versus who I wanted to be and who I truly was. And there's some small examples of that of just like DJing where like, a planner or a venue would put a ceiling or a restriction on how I wanted things to sound and how I wanted things to feel for those people. And quite frankly, in this podcast, there's venues that I won't work at if like I can't have low end or I can't have that right sound because I know that that's putting a ceiling on who I am. Very like kind of techie sort of logistical example. But even how I communicate, once you have that breakdown, I'm like, I really don't care if someone walks. I really don't care if this is going to happen. We're going to figure it out. Like I am not being reserved on the account of fear. I am who I am. And that doesn't mean, a disrespect or like the fake masculine where you're yelling or screaming to get what you want or communicate. I mean, just like you can't live in that fear that like you might lose something or break something down when you're advocating for what you want or need in business and personal life, and relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, whatever that is. And that's the big thing with the breakdown is like, I know who I am. And that reflection then comes around, like you said.
And what I think the term people use that at least the people that I'm around is, having an abundance versus a scarcity mindset. Because and I think that comes from the ability to have an abundance mindset. And just to define that, if this is not like Jason first heard parlay for the first time in 2023, if you've never heard the term abundance
kind of
mindset,
playful with that word parlay, it just became a popular word. I just felt I needed to make a joke about it. Yeah.
Like abundance mindset, meaning that I am willing to share information with my competitor and share and like be friends with them because I'm not afraid that they're going to take all my gigs.
Yeah.
Abundance mindset is knowing that I can turn down a gig that doesn't serve me because another one that's better is going to come. It's having the confidence that the environment and the universe and whatever you want to label it as is going to take care of you. I suffer from that all the time. I'm always like, oh no, we don't have any gigs this month. And then out of nowhere, some giant gig will come and I'll be like, but I was just stressing for no reason. So the abundance mindset is knowing things are going to work out, that there are enough gigs to go around. There's enough opportunity to share. We all have a piece of the pie. Scarcity mindset is what a lot of DJs operate in is if I lose a staff member to a competitor.
David, a lot of people, not just DJs,
we're done.
A lot of people.
Yes, a lot of people is if you succeed, I fail.
Yeah.
If my competitor succeeds, I fail. If a relationship that I had fails and they do better, that reflects on me. It's not that at all. And it takes, again, I think it takes that journey like you were talking about, that reclaiming of who you are, because the whole point here, the whole focal point of this podcast episode is to say that like all of the actions, all of the things that happen in sales and marketing and confidence in your pricing and booking rates and closing percentages, all of those technical elements all come from the energy that you're putting out.
Yep. Absolutely.
So if that energy is broken or not, if it's capped or governed, you are capped and governed in your business as well. And I'm speaking also for me too. Like I'm not a monk on the hill saying that I'm perfect.
Yep. And I've experienced, look back, you can reflect, like I experienced those waves. Yeah. I was just tired and I had just a strange gene of energy that was able to accomplish what I did in my 20s, from working 6 a.m. to 9 or 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and then DJing 3 weddings a weekend, doing sales, everything with people around me. Of course, I was not alone. I've had some great people helped me accomplish those things. But I think about, the 5 sales appointments a night that I would take. And then other people were taking those sales appointments. But that energy that was in that office when we were getting off the ground, and all of a sudden overnight we had 300 weddings booked, and I was getting booked for 80 weddings a year. I was putting out such great energy, and everyone could feel that like this is what I wanted. And I had this mindset since I was 12 years old. I'd have an office, I'd have a bunch of DJs working for me. It was great. We were one of the first in our area before many of these wedding venues were built. We were just ready for it. But it was just that mindset that like, there's no reason why someone wouldn't book me, because like, it wasn't ego based. It was like, I love what I do. Like, and if they can't see that, like, I'm sorry. The right people will, and the right couples have booked me because of that. Like you said, turning down jobs. There's been times as we've been growing into like corporate and different things like that. Like I've had to sit across the table and had some hard conversations over $20,000, $50,000 jobs. There was even a $300,000 contract that we had that we were doing production for and planning and event management for a couple of years. I had to let that client go because of how our organization was being treated and what we were put through. And it was just bad. I tried to make it work. But at the end of the day, the collaborative interest in moving forward had faded. But again, yeah, a lot of people hear this podcast, and I understand what that number means to a lot of our listeners. And I don't say that as a flex or a boast or anything like that. I say that in relation to like how scary that was to like let that number go. But my personal income and the success of my company hadn't changed, because then other things kind of came in, and that space was freed up for us to focus on quality control and social, and focus on a couple of clients, maybe not one, but replace that one with 2, 3, 4, 5 corporate clients that really valued and respected and had interest in what we were doing, who were more team oriented and collaborative from that standpoint. So
I think it's worth saying, like very explicitly, like say it out loud, that sales revenue growth year over year doesn't have to be the goal every year.
No,
growth
it doesn't.
Can be personal in your business. You could say that, hey, you going from 25 to 10 weddings a year is going to take a chunk of revenue from your company, especially if you're the highest earner. You have to understand that your availability of energy to produce in other areas is growth for your company, even though it's not revenue based. So you can look at a company that goes from the same dollar amount of revenue this year and next year, but there's other growth, culture, energy, alignment, systems, reorganization, letting clients go. All of these things also count as growth in my book, at least.
Oh yeah. And when you first get into this business, at least for me, you're chasing some numbers, you're chasing the high, you're chasing the rock star feeling. I got 50 weddings this year. Well, let's say 20. I got 20 weddings this year. I got 50 weddings this year. I got 75 this year. And if it's some DJ math, you did 200 weddings somehow yourself. But I'm like, okay, I know how hard it is to book 200 weddings in a market. You go, boy. But at any rate, no offense to anybody, playful only, I promise. And with that though, you get kind of, you're chasing the numbers, because that growth is also easy to do in your first 1, 2, 3 years, as you get your name out there, you get some referrals, you're following that formula. But it comes to a point then where you have to make a decision. Is like, okay, what is the company now that I want to create? I created my own brand. Is that just me? Do I just DJ 50 weddings a year with 1 or 2 people helping me as an assist, and maybe pick up some birthday parties that I've trained and a couple weddings that make them feel good? Or are we doing a business venture? And that's where everything you just said is 100% accurate. And there is such thing as market cap and market ceiling and market share. And you have to evaluate that on a given basis and anything like that. But for us to kind of stay where we are, but I've also had these different seasons. And then when I look at my personal bank account or income from the business, and I'm like, okay, but about the same, up and down, just a couple percentage points each year. But I'm really happy this year. I love what I do this year. I had more time with my kids this year. And I took a 5% pay cut in exchange of that, because now on a Monday I show up and I have more energy for my staff, and I'm here with a smile, and I'm sharing my energy with them and able to cultivate the atmosphere that I want to have versus a tired, kind of groggy atmosphere coming off of like 3 weddings for a weekend. And my staff sees me take a nap on a Monday afternoon when they're grinding because I'm dead. And even though they appreciate that and see the value, it still is a weird thing to have the owner napping when, yeah, you get what I'm going with that. But that exchange, and I don't know if it's exactly 5%, but it's really not that much. You get the business to a point where you have to start making some of those decisions. And the best thing is that it's your business. We're in America. You can do whatever you want with your business, define it however you want. And it's finding that equilibrium or that balance of like who you are, who you want to be, not who you think you have to be, not what you think you have to do. Years ago, I got really caught up on going to conventions and conferences and seeing success from people who are much further along than me. Either that was a thought in my head or that was truly defined, could have been defined. And I would talk to people from big cities and they would be like, oh, we're doing $2 million in weddings. And I'd be like, I get so angry. I'd be like, why am I not doing that for as hard as I work? Well, Jason, you live in a market where there's not the availability to do so. And I wish someone told me that more, because I'd come back from these business development conferences in the industry, outside of the industry, hired coaches and different things. And that's the one thing that I would probably, someone who's growing, and maybe we're catching somebody in that mindset right now where they're more towards the beginning, is, really study and understand your market too, because you don't want to overstimulate your education and your excitement to then you start telling yourself the hard stories in your head too, that you're not good enough because you don't have their numbers or you don't have 20 people working for you. But you have a solid 5, and it's all on a scale and a frequency that you just select. So those mindset stuff could get to you. Don't forget about, don't tell yourself your stories that you're not enough or whatnot.
That is everything this podcast episode is about, right? It's about, not only is your, Jason said it, say it again, the quote that's on your mirror.
Every relationship is a reflection of the relationship you have with yourself. Yes. Who you are, what you want to be, where you are. You just could make that whole list in all those different areas. And that's been a big theme of my life in the last year or so.
And it's what's hard about it, what's difficult about it. And again, I'm going to draw the line in the sand for listeners and explain and just call it what it is. You go and look on any Facebook group for DJs, and this is not industry specific. I guarantee this is in every industry, because this is just people. You go look at, DJ help desk or DJ idea sharing or whatever it might be. And the questions and the things that people celebrate tend to be like, oh my God, I just bought the new Rain Performer. And you're like, great. You know how much that costs? That's 2 G's for this. When's the last time you put 2 G's into your personal development?
I don't think a lot of people are doing the same thing.
No. And the reason why is that it's uncomfortable.
Yep.
Buying a Rain Performer makes you feel like a more successable DJ the moment that you get it. And you're like, look at me, it looks cool. And no one.
Oh, I got stems now. I sound 10 times better. Okay.
But
tell me how much your client notices that. And
not at all.
Show me some reviews that says, I am so glad my DJ bought the new Rain mixer and used stems for my wedding. Yep. It's awesome, and I have a lot of fun with stems. I'm not crapping on stems at all. It's made me
Jason
feel
and I are like the same DJ.
But I love it. I use it all the time, and I'm actually probably 10 times a better DJ since those came out on the Rev 7 and whatnot. But my whole point in saying that your personal development investment is huge. Somewhere around right around the time that I was in what I would consider probably my lowest mental state point of my entire life to date was December of 21. And that was coming after the ripples and, what's life look like in all areas of my personal life. Some of us shared some things on the business side at that time in the calendar. But I had everything in all my, as a father, as a lover, as a friend, as a business owner, as an identity, as a DJ, all that stuff kind of put me into a spot at once. I invested into a life coach. And with that, again, the fiduciary exchange of energy holds me to a commitment month to month. And it's not a program. It's not a college course. It's conversational. And I'm very lucky that after weeding maybe through some conventional counselors or conventional type therapy, a mindset coach is what works for me. And that investment has completely changed my life. I am a completely different person. We recorded or had something from one of our first sessions in December of 21. And like, I couldn't even hear my voice when we tried to play it back. Like, I was like, this is not who I am today. It was a great reminder, a great lesson. But investing into your personal development, and like, don't forget those investments as well. For some of the young guys out there, the one thing that I would say is I had a really strong year and a half with my coach. And I did so much work on myself. I was in a position where I felt like I just needed to like breathe. And I decided to actually stop using him for close to 6 months. Maybe it was a little longer than that. And at the end of those 6, 7 months, I ended up reaching back out at him, not because I felt like I had fallen back to where I started, but there was a new chapter in the season turning in my life. And I reflected on some things that I was like, wait a second, when I had the accountability mindset, and maybe you don't even pay for somebody. Maybe you are lucky like I was early on in my career where I could reach out to mentors who were 20, 30 years older than me, successful people, maybe in the industry, maybe not, who would do coffee with me and just keep me aligned with bookmarks that helped me stay on track for who I wanted to be and who I needed to be, who I desired to be. But where I'm getting at this is when I'm working with my life coach, I look back and I'm like, my bank account was its healthiest. I had a 6-pack. I was feeling great. I was a kick-ass father. And then I'm like, I really enjoyed this rest phase, but having this coach and that accountability, whether it be him again or someone else, I'm like, it is him again in my storyline. But having that accountability was huge.
This is exactly what I was looking for, Jason. And what an incredible way to like almost like bring it back home to kind of how we started, because you know, the energy that you cultivate in yourself and then you're able to share is the entire point. When you get a win, don't stop at the win. Use that energy to propel you to the next one, because that's how you build confidence in anything too.
Yep.
You get a win that makes you try harder to get another win. It's the shift in energy and the cultivation of the energy is the thing that I want you to take away as a listener into your next week, into your next quarter, into next year as you're planning your 25, and think about how much bigger and more fulfilling your experience can be and how that's going to impact everything else. So, Jason, tell everybody how they can find you online.
You can find me online at Jason Klock, JSONKLOCK, not a C, with a K. And that is my handle for anything that I have. Websites, Klock Entertainment, KLOCKentertainment.com. Personal websites, JasonKlock.com. You type Jason Klock in somewhere. I think there's only 3 of us. So I'm the one that has all the music stuff near me. Yes. And you'll find me.
Hey, I got to share this. If you search David Osborne, I don't know if it's true anymore. The guy, the main pianist for the White House is David Osborne, and he tends to come up first. So about that,
you're the second one.
Yeah, I'm the number 2, I guess.
Posting DJ videos for 15 years online has helped me. I'm sure there's other Jason Klocks out there that are like, who's this DJ guy?
Oh my God. Awesome. Well, thanks one more time, Jason.
Absolutely,
and,
brother. Thank you.
We'll see you guys on the next one.